Welcome to the Mojo Motivation and Mental Health Podcast, where we're having conversations that change lives. I'm Mike Orlowski. Before we start today, if you're dealing with addiction, experiencing suicidal thoughts, if you're feeling worthless or hopeless, please call or text 988, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Call 911 if it's an emergency. You're not alone. Transformation is possible, and you do matter. If this show is helping you or might help someone you know, if these conversations are making a difference in your life, please like, share, comment on this episode. The more reach we have, the more people we can help who are struggling. Now, today's conversation is about what happens when someone offers you a gift at your lowest point and how that gift becomes a mission to pay it forward to thousands of others. My guest is Chason Forehand, founder of HR4U and the Transformation Kitchen. Chason's story includes years of physical and mental abuse, drug addiction, homelessness, shame, self loathing, incarceration, and suicidal ideation. He thought he was worthless. And then someone in the culinary field offered him a gift, not money, not pity, but training, a skill, a pathway forward. That person was paying forward a gift they'd received, and they asked Chason to do the same. And that moment changed everything. Today, Chason runs the Transformation Kitchen, a program that provides culinary training, life skills, and wellness support for people facing the same systemic barriers he once faced. He's advocating for the Psychological Safety Act across New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Because here's what Chason knows. Poverty is rising, food insecurity is at an all-time high, and you can't address mental health without addressing the economic conditions that create crisis. We're going to talk about Chason's transformation, how Transformation Kitchen works, and why his mission is to help people thrive, not just survive. Chason, thank you for being here.
Man, it's my honor to be here, and I appreciate that fantastic intro, brother.
Thank you. I'm grateful for you, grateful to know you, and looking forward to our conversation. I guess
Yeah,
let's start with, first of all, I have to start with what's important. We're both University of Michigan fans. Go Blue.
go
My
blue.
wife is working from home downstairs today, but she'd probably come up here and throw something at me because she's from Ohio and she's an Ohio State fan. So, you know, we have a truly house divided.
That is a house divided. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. But it is part of the marriage. Let's start with your story, abuse, addiction, homelessness. Kind of tell us a little bit about how you grew up and what led you here, if you will.
Yeah, on the outside, family dynamic to the community probably looked normal. On the inside, it was really about shame and fear and just not very healthy kind of setting.
Hmm.
So when I was 5, my father won a very important court battle to get my brother and I away from our biological mother who was physically abusing us. And that's a huge thing, especially in the mid 60s, because he was a single parent that was at Florida State University as a music major. And he was working part time in the apparel industry and, didn't make enough money to provide for 2 kids and continue down this path. But the thing that kind of broke it for the court and helped in his favor was when they took pictures of me and my mom had used my body as an ashtray. That, along with the fact that he was planning to leave college and had already gotten himself a full-time job in manufacturing and clothing in the apparel industry. The courts decided to give him full custody. She didn't have any rights to us. He moved us out of state because we were in Tallahassee, Florida.
Hmm.
And then New York became home, but we made a couple of different trips and different paths to get there eventually. And he married too quickly to someone on the outside, had all the right credentials and everything. And that lady just poured hatred into us, especially because we weren't her kids. and we ended up having I had brothers, younger brothers, half brothers
Mhm.
that were part of the family because they ended up having kids together, but she always treated us like we were less than and told us that we were garbage, that we had been left behind, that we were no good, and just all the different small things along the way that became larger things as I grew up that I just really didn't know how to deal with. So you take those you take all of that stuff and all that trauma and all those years of nonsense, and I go to college, and now I don't have all of that. I've left
Mhm.
home. I don't have these things, but I don't know how to process all the hatred and anger and self-loathing and all of that. So at 15, I joined culinary ranks. At 16, I started taking drugs to dull my senses and to escape. And then through the culinary field and the things that happen naturally in that zone, if you don't have leaders that are careful, it's a breeding ground for addiction and poor mental health. And I fell right into that trap, to the places where I was really not taking care of myself and I
Mhm.
was lost.
Yeah. Can't imagine, I was pretty lucky growing up. I was depressed, but not for family reasons, but I can't imagine the mental impact of all you went through as a child from both your mother and of course then the stepmother. What's it like as a kid? Obviously you said you weren't equipped to handle all that or what to do, right? I mean, who is? I don't know that anybody is, let alone an adult. What's that like? I've never been in that situation. Is it just constant barrage of negativity in your mind?
I loathed the person that stared back at me. I ended up hating the person I was.
Mhm.
And I mean, there were subtle things, and then there were things that were really very abusive. The
Mhm.
subtle things would be like pushing you to join the drama club. You do, even though you're an introvert. I used to have a lisp. I still do. You can hear it sometimes when I sing, but I was, it was way out of my comfort zone. And
Sure.
so being pushed to do that and to try out for sports and other things and end up, when I would go to practice or when I would go to a show, her telling me, "Oh, you can't do that. I need you to do this." So pushing you to do it. And then once you do some of the things, once you make a lead in a play or a musical, and then her saying, "No, you can't even go to the practices because I need you to do something else." It was this, I want you to do what I tell you, but then I'm gonna tell you that you're worthless and I need you here. And it's those things that add up over time that you start to really, it starts to build and build and build. And there's a lot of things I blocked out. There's a ton of stuff from my childhood that I don't remember. There
Mm.
are
Mhm.
moments that I remember,
Yeah.
and there's certain things that, my body or my mind is like just compartmentalized and stored away so that I protect myself and I don't remember that tragedy or that trauma or, and I'm okay with not I'm okay with doing the work I'm doing and continuing to level up to be the healthiest version of myself mentally and
Mhm.
physically. I'm not okay with trying to uncover that to see all the terrible things that happen. I'm okay with just, let's move forward.
And when you were using drugs and, ended up incarcerated and homeless, was that college years or late teens or
Yeah, late teens, college years, early 20s, in and out of county lockup. I never went to prison, and I will say this, I'm very clear about this because people hear incarceration and they automatically think that I was in prison. I was removed from school and put into county because I was selling drugs so that I could get my drugs at a lower rate or free.
Mm.
And I was just on a terrible path. Had I been a person of color, they would have thrown the book at me and put me under the prison. And I realized that I live in privilege because they saw a troubled kid with all these great grades that had slowly declined, that had a family that was in church and doing all the things, that was a white kid. And I got hand slapped, and I got a whole bunch of community service, and I got fines that I had to pay over time. I didn't get things tossed at me that I would have had I been a person of color. And that really, I didn't realize. I was just grateful at the time, and honestly, just thankful that I wasn't going to go to prison. But it took me years to realize that discrepancy and that bias and that privilege that I sat in,
Hmm.
and understanding how I need to do something to help people that have not been fortunate.
Yeah. And that led you to someone helping you, right? Giving you a hand and teaching you more about how to pay it forward and in the culinary field. I mean, is that kind of what that next step was?
Yeah, you know what? I've told this before, but I ended up in a trap house, which is just kind of like an abandoned building where people squat
Okay.
and do drugs and things. And I had been on a good level where I was keeping my drug use to a place where I could function at work. And I made the team at a very high end place that was doing so. I mean, the head chef was winning all kinds of awards and was on this path. And I saw the light, like, oh man, I'm not only going to make more money than I've ever made in my life at that point, but I'm also going to have stable means to provide for myself and an opportunity to learn.
Hmm.
And at first it was great. And then because I'm a drug addict, I fell off the deep end, and I woke up in this place where I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what day it was.
Mm,
I didn't know who these people were around me. I had no idea. I just, the sights and sounds and smells and everything was really alarming and very unsettling. And I, to this day, I just have sensations. I don't remember anything that happened previously. I don't know how I got there. I just remember the sensations of waking up in that place, seeing what I saw and being just really repulsed. I already was dealing with shame and doubt and self-loathing, but man, now I'm like, it's really in high alert. I'm just at the top end feeling terrible. And I get outside and I go to a newsstand, and I realize I had missed Friday night service, Saturday night service, and Sunday brunch, the
wow.
3 biggest shifts that I'm responsible for. And I'm a line guy, so I'm working the line. I'm responsible for my station
Yeah.
wherever I've been assigned, and I let myself down, but I let the team down, and I let this chef down,
Sure.
and I just felt terrible. And instead of him kicking me out the door and throwing me away like other places had in the past, he told me he was 10 years clean and sober himself, that someone had paid it forward to him. He saw what I was going through, and he had made phone calls and had contacted some people so I could start to get help. He was my first
Nice.
sponsor and my first mentor. And because of that, I was able to start down the path of doing the things I needed to do to get clean and to turn around my life. That paying it forward to other people, you don't see as much as I would like in the world today.
Right.
So I now get to take that and pay it forward to as many people as possible.
Well, at least from my perspective, and I'm not an expert in the culinary industry, But from my understanding, obviously, and I think it still is, very high stress industry. A lot of chefs are not known as being overly friendly and nice. So the fact that you found this person is pretty amazing, right? It's a tough job as it is. It's a high intensity, high stress, got to be on time type of a job. And you found this person who, like you, had struggled, overcome addiction, and now they're doing the same to kind of share it forward for you, which you do now. I think that's pretty amazing.
Well, look, I am not overly religious, but I am a person of great faith. And I
Hmm.
think God puts people in your path for a reason. And I think at that point in time where I was at the lowest place in my life, I think God knew that I needed something to help. And that's the first step in a 12-step recovery is that you've got to admit that you are powerless against your addiction and that you've got to look at a higher power to help you move through what you're going through, and you need
Hmm.
community. And
For
so
sure.
this was a huge help and a handout because I had burned so many bridges and I had done so many terrible things to people that I had alienated myself. So this is an impactful piece.
It may have saved your life, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I had 2 different times in my life where I tried to take myself off the board, and one by accident, and one was very intentional. And again, people in my path that, showed up right at the right time so that I did not end up becoming successful, obviously. And that now resonates with me to be hyper aware of signs and things that I see in other people so that I can show up and that I can help them get the help they need. Because I'm not a professional in that regard. I know, just like you said in the very beginning, um, 988. I'm been fortunate to spend time with Kristen Christie, so she's
Sure.
absolutely
Amazing.
amazing.
Yes. Yes, she is.
You know, but also getting the services and the tools you need to talk through things and
Hmm.
do the work internally so that you can move forward, that's
Yeah.
huge. And
100%.
I think a lot of times we ignore some of the signs and we say we don't want to be a bother to people, or we say that we don't want to intrude, but sometimes that intrusion
That's me.
saves a lot.
Yeah. I was exactly like that. On my side, I didn't want to be a bother. I was depressed. So instead of asking someone for help or talking about the depression, I, bottled it up. I did what us men do, rubbed some dirt on it. I shook it off and I just kept on going until I didn't. And thankfully, like you, I'm still here because the powers that be made it at least so that I could recognize, like, hey, you don't need to keep fighting. You can use this story to help others. And I'm grateful for it, much like you are. And I would ask, so from your standpoint, from the intervention with this chef to where you got clean to then starting your business and the transformation kitchen, what's that timeline look like?
Decades.
Yeah,
So,
it's not a
I
fast
mean,
process, right?
it's not a fast process, and I kinda waffled around for a while where I was going from doing culinary things to doing things kind of outside of culinary that meshed up, like retail that, selling food and beverages and things of that nature, but still when you conquer one addiction, but you have an addictive personality, your addiction just morphs.
Hmm.
And what I wasn't doing is I wasn't dealing with some of the deeper issues inside.
Hmm.
So I'm
Yeah.
doing surface level work to, all right, I'm gonna conquer this, but then this comes up and this comes up and that comes up. And to this day, I am still working on peeling back the layers of the onion and the mask to make sure that I continue to do deeper work. It never ends. It's never
Right.
going to end because of my personality and because of the addiction that follows me. Have to keep vigilant to make sure that I don't fall back into traps and that notice when it's morphing to something else and
Hmm.
I set boundaries so that I can make sure that I stay mentally and physically healthy, and that's the trick over time. This with being able in 2022 to create the nonprofit was really about what I saw in the industry from dealing with leaders and leaving corporate America. How many leaders don't get it that people are the most important thing to your bottom line? And when you
Yes.
pour into people and you take care of people and you make sure they have all the tools and resources they need to thrive, then your company will thrive. And it's not magic, it's science. And there are people a
Right.
lot smarter than me that have been talking about it for decades. So we started out really talking about living wages and how we could have the conversations with people about why living wages are so important and how 44% of workers in the United States don't make enough to put food on the table, and it causes other problems to happen. And then in 2023, we started having conversations about would it look like if we put some boots on the ground. And in 2024, we developed Transformation Kitchen, which now in 2025 built our first one out in Matagalpa, Nicaragua with Rayo de Sol. And currently we're in the middle of building one in the Hudson Valley area of New York, Beacon, New York, to be specific.
Yeah. And what led you to do it in Nicaragua first? And what's the timeline for the operation in Beacon, New York?
Great questions. I will say this that I start at the before the nonprofit came out, I joined a group that you're part of as well called the Outlier Project. At the time I joined, it was called something different
Yes.
and was really more talent recruiters, people of that ilk. And now it's people from all different walks of life, almost 800 people in what 20 plus countries that
Over.
are from everywhere and are in all different shapes, sizes, and it's amazing. It's an
Absolutely
incredible,
amazing.
incredible
Yeah.
thing to be part of. I met
Agree.
through that. I went to Scott and Meg McGregor's house in Connecticut, and I heard a presentation from Peter Shaler, who is the executive director of Rayo de Sol. And I will never forget, I had heard about him and heard some things because Scott and him are old school friends. They grew up in
Hmm.
the same town. And I was there. I was really uncomfortable because it was one of the first times that I had been in person with a whole bunch of people I didn't know. So I went and had lunch with Kathy Love, who was like, just stay next to me. It's going to be okay. And Kathy kind of, kept an eye on me. And I'm there and I loved it. And I had a small check from Jody and my wife and I, to Rayo de Sol. And then we just started talking about how we could collaborate. He and
Nice.
I have we have the same mindset about helping people,
Hmm.
and it's not about us. It's not about our organization. It's about how many people can we impact over a long period of time that really sticks so that they can thrive as humans. And Peter and I we just clicked. And the next thing I know in 2025, the doors, are open for us to build out this transformation kitchen. I spent 21 days. We did a fundraiser. We we raised all the funds we needed for all the equipment. I went and spent 21 days on the ground, built it out, left the curriculum and syllabus, and then it's just thrived from there. And now this
Excellent.
year when I go back, we're working off of a grant that we received to help build out mobile portions of that operation so that we
Nice.
can reach more people. And
Yeah.
it's impactful. And
And it's
it's
very
just
poor there.
it's extreme there's extreme poverty there. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, that's making a big difference.
Absolutely. Well, Rayo de Sol makes a huge difference already. This is another tool in their tool belt. They have doctors and psychiatrists and horticulturalists and people
Wow.
that
Yeah.
are school teachers. And they have all of these programs and all of these wonderful people doing incredible work. This just adds another layer, and
Yes.
I'm honored, and we as an organization are honored to lock arms and do the work with.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing, and it's making a big difference. And soon, obviously, now you're working towards doing the same in New York. What's that time frame look like?
Well, we're already actually after our session here, I'm going into Beacon, and we have a project manager, and we're meeting with the project manager so that we all three chefs that are involved with this program can get together, can kind of brain dump on what we've got to do, and we could start to get this all rifled out so that by the beginning of August, we open the doors.
Nice. Quick time frame.
Yes. Yes, yes.
Gonna be a busy summer.
It is gonna be a busy summer.
Um, yes, I understand. And well, it'll be exciting. And tell us a little bit about Transformation Kitchen because it's more than just a culinary training facility, right? It's providing life skills, wellness support. It's preparing these folks for far more than just being a culinary expert.
Yeah, absolutely. I say this frequently to people because there's hundreds of culinary training facilities in the United States. But if you were to take all the things that we do and our mission, vision, and purpose, and the some of the real defining pieces that we have of making sure that people have a living wage and that
Hmm.
long term they are still part of what we call the forge. So when we don't call them students, we call them forges. So they come into the forge, they're forges in the forge, they're transforming themselves. That whole process and the fact that once you join, you're in for life. You can
Hmm.
come back, go through different classes, you can re-up your
Nice.
skills, you can mentor other people. We want you to stay part of the community. That you take all of that, you put it in Claude or Chat GPT or whatever your favorite thing is, and ask it to find organizations that do that. The first one that'll pop up is Transformation Kitchen, but there are only 4 organizations even close to what we do,
Wow.
and that's what differentiates us, is the breadth of services, how wraparound it is, because we want someone to be mentally and physically well,
Hmm.
along with having all the tools and resources they need, because that's how we're gonna break cycles. It's not a hand up, it's not a hand out. I said that backwards. It's not a hand out, but it's a hand up.
Right.
So get them out of that cycle of needing the handouts and being able to stand on their own 2 feet. And that happens over time. And it happens from them being at a place where they're willing to do the work because it's not easy. But we're gonna
No.
provide them training and resources along the way to make sure that happens.
What's it look like from start to finish for someone entering the program? Is there an average time frame that they would be participating that you would say, okay, you start now and you expect to get out in X amount of time?
Yeah, it's physically 90 days. So it's a 90-day program, but again, we will add on and help however we need to make sure that you're ready to go. I will say that, the first part is basics. So you're learning all the basics, getting yourself comfortable. Some people need to repeat that part. So some people are going to come into the program and they're going to need to stay in that basics section for a little bit longer. There is
Sure.
no shame in that. There is
Right.
no there's no thing that says you've got to do this in this time frame or you stink, you're terrible and you're out. That's not how we work. We work on the basis of trying to really get people into a place where they want to go and they learn and can grow. But the first phase is basics. The
Hmm.
second phase, when they get towards the end of the first phase and start to go to the second phase, so we go freshmen, juniors, and seniors. So when
Hmm.
they get into the junior section and they're learning about scaling, they're learning about catering, they're learning about
Okay.
production and plating and things of that nature. What does it look like? Because we're not a place where you'll come and sit down. We're a place where you'll pick up things and take it with you. We're a place where you can find the merch, where you can find packaged goods, where you can find things that are built by the forges themselves, and you could take that and have meals for your family and
Nice.
provide for yourself. So that is what we do. While we're doing that, they get paid. So we'll have volunteers come in and help us with the actual storefront, but we
Okay.
also have people that are going through the program, the forges themselves, that will get paid while they're learning, and
Hmm.
then they either get a living wage job with us or with one of our partners along the way.
Yeah, because you can't go into these programs and not pay someone, right? It's otherwise you probably wouldn't have very many people that could afford to do it.
Right. It's tough.
It makes it hard. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's very tough. So we really move up how quickly we want that to happen. Now, again, there
Okay.
are some people that are unemployed, and there are people that have barriers to employment because they're justice impacted or they're working through their addiction. So they understand that it may be 30 or 40 days before they start to get a paycheck, and they have no paycheck now. So now there's a promise that, hey, you're going to come in and do this, and now you're going to get a paycheck because we are going to open within, by the middle end of August. We want to have hours that we open after the training. So our training is Monday through Thursday, 9 to 2. So we're going to look at mid August opening from 3 to 5, 3 to 6 for a few hours so people can come in, see what we've created, meet some of the forges, understand what's going on, maybe buy some merch so they can show it and advertise and tell other people and get people excited. And then eventually we'll open Fridays and Saturdays from 9 to 2 and let the forges run the shop.
Nice.
And so that gives them income, it gives them education, it allows the community to get behind it, and it allows us to have revenue that goes right back in to the bottom line.
Absolutely. Very important. And this part of your mission is to break cycles, poverty, addiction, incarceration, violence through actionable change, right? And this is going to help break those cycles. And that's the beautiful part of it, right? Is you're changing and saving lives. How do you see these cycles of poverty and addiction, incarceration? How do they feed each other? And then how do you break them as part of this process, right? I mean, stability, training, hope, I'm sure are parts of that.
I think it I think they all are. Poverty, homelessness, and food insecurity are interwoven. And it doesn't matter how you got there, whether it's you lost your job and now you can't get another job and you've depleted all your savings and you're getting kicked out of your apartment and you don't have enough friends to couch surf and, whatever the circumstances were that got you to this place. In my case, it was drugs that got in the way and I depleted everything because I just worked to get more drugs. When you have something that keeps you in a cycle,
Hmm.
then you find it hard to escape and it starts to impact other things. You don't have a job, you can't make enough money, or you're not making a living wage. You can't afford to put food on the table, to pay for all the bills that you need to pay. You become in this cycle where you are in need all the time. In order to break that cycle, we have to get you mentally and physically well. And we have to make sure that you have the skills and tools at the ready to do the work and that you're prepared to do the work, that you
Hmm.
want to do the work, that you're excited about what your life can be, that you have hope and that you see the light at the end of the tunnel. That's huge
Huge.
because
Yeah.
for so many they've gone years, maybe decades where they haven't seen that light and all they saw was darkness.
Yeah.
All they saw was I'm not good enough. And that wheel has been going on for so long in their life that they don't know how to break that. That's the part where we get them in touch with the people. Yes, we have health and wellness coaches, but they're not therapists. And
Sure.
eventually, what we'd like to have on staff are therapists that are part of what we do. That's in the future. Right now, what we do is we have a robust team of people. Another outlier, Melissa Duer, that is our health and wellness officer that has
Hmm.
built an incredible group of people that are going to be boots on the ground for the humans that are going through this process.
Nice.
And then we will hand off people to therapists in town that we make relationships with that are willing to attach themselves and volunteer time for our forges. There are 3 people that will go through the first 90 days. After the first 90 days, probably sometime in October, we'll
Hmm.
start with a 3-3-3 cycle. So 3 people come in, and as the freshmen move to junior, 3 more people come in, and
Okay.
you keep that rotate. So there's always 3 new people coming, 3 people moving to the next level, and the senior level, which I kinda glossed over, but is very important. That's where we want the mentors and the people that
Yeah.
are getting ready to go into the workforce and kind of finishing those roughing those edges and getting them really prepared and having them run the fast casual place, the front of the service,
Yes.
the the physical retail shop that we sell goods from.
Yeah.
And that's huge. So
Yeah. Because they're learning how
it's
to
a
be the leaders, right?
yeah. They're learning about EQ and empathy and leadership and communication and why all of it ties together and how to get past their own biases and I mean, their own trauma from everything that they've had going on in their life. It's super important, and there's not enough places that will do all of it. They'll do some of it, and they do a fine job, and I think that's great, and I cheer them, and I cheer anybody who's doing any of the work, period. But
Of
I think
course.
there's gotta be a place where we lock arms with other nonprofits and other for-profits to say, "We believe in a way that we can get people back on their feet," because when they're back on their feet, they're taxpayers.
Right.
So the community wins because now here's somebody that has been using services that now is thriving, taking care of their family and themselves, and they're
Yeah.
paying taxes.
Right.
And they don't
Important.
need the services that taxpayers pay for.
Correct.
Then as
Yeah. Yeah.
well, they're adding to the community because they're purchasing from the community that helped them. It is win, win, win for everyone when
Yeah.
people
Across the
thrive.
board. I agree. I think that's important, and it's something that people don't realize is the shift from using services to contributing, earning, buying, paying taxes. It's a big shift, and it makes a huge difference across the board when we do that. Um, Now, I know you're part of a campaign to pass the Psychological Safety Act in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. What is that act, and why does that need to be passed? What's the importance of it? What is the background on it?
Well, it really comes, and I get connected in with this from the president of our board of directors, who is currently in Sydney, Australia. And
Wow.
she is on a board to get these passed and got me lit up about it because that's her her programs and what she does with Elevated Coaching and Consulting Global. She's got teams in the United States, in Canada, and in Australia. And she's very active on getting legislation and things across the board to make sure that leaders and businesses understand that they can't just treat people the way they want to
Hmm.
because they're in charge of the payroll. They're in charge of, if you don't like it, I'll just fire you. That that is not an acceptable way to run a business.
Agreed.
And so from workplace bullying to language and microaggressions and other things that are going on, Psychological Safety Act is really about people being able to thrive and be treated fairly within their workplace. It's gaps in what is currently part of EEOC. And if you know anything about what's going on with the EEOC and how, this is a government agency that is well underfunded has
Hmm.
a lack of personnel and not enough people to go to all the different places to investigate all the different claims in all the different states.
Sure.
And frequently, if an EEOC claim is out, it could be months to even years before the EEOC finalizes investigations and actually helps
Yeah.
somebody. And at that point, they could be not working at the same place where they had the problem in the first place. So
Right. And then they
these
close
are
it, right? Yeah.
addressing these are addressing some of those gaps and saying to leaders and organizations, you can't treat people however you feel like treating them and not allow them to be safe in the workplace
Hmm.
because you control the payroll strings.
But it's probably far worse for those who have a history of abuse or drug abuse, intoxication, incarceration, right? They're treated even worse than, say, someone like me who's never dealt with that. Now that I haven't had situations where I was treated poorly, but they're taken advantage of because of the fear and the risk of, I can't afford to lose this job.
Well, that's where people are putting that on themselves. And because of how the workplace treats them, they allow certain things to happen. People that have been incarcerated in prison have a stigma that follows them, and a lot of times they will have trouble getting a job, they'll have trouble with other resources, and that's becomes a that becomes a tough scenario.
It does. And, I speak about it a little bit and I talk about it. We talked about it a little bit earlier when you talked about leadership. People are your greatest asset. AI or no AI, they're still people, that are they're your greatest asset. There are so many factors to it, and it starts at the top. And there's so many leaders nowadays. And I don't know the numbers, but there's so many leaders that don't understand this simple concept of what you do and what you unleash when you release your leaders to be true leaders, to treat people like they're your greatest asset, is greater productivity, improved cost savings opportunities because they're more engaged, much greater retention on the job. It's a across the board impact on your company. It becomes more profitable. So for me, it's a no brainer. And the book, The Talent War, is on my shelf behind me as one that I refer to often. To me, it's common sense. I don't understand why some leaders feel it's best to treat people so poorly.
Well, it's funny, I mean, I've talked about this in a lot of different scenarios, but even today in 2026, especially in the service industry, there are people that are running a business that are not real leaders. I mean, they hold the
Hmm.
purse strings,
Yeah.
but they're not really leaders. And they run like their idea of human resources is we'll have a come to Jesus meeting out by the dumpsters and back.
Yeah.
And, it's my way or the highway. And they're screaming and yelling and pointing of fingers. And it's an old school methodology and it doesn't work anymore. But it
No,
still
it doesn't.
happens. It still happens. So
It absolutely does. I actually had somebody, I can't remember who it was, but yesterday told me the same situation, someone that they worked with in an office and they're being treated like that. And it does still happen. It is, I think, finally starting to see some improvement in that there's a lot more people talking about it and taking action on it and learning how to affect change, but we're definitely not there yet.
no, not yet.
Now, if someone's listening today and they feel worthless right now, or they're dealing with addiction, maybe homeless, or at the risk of being homeless, facing incarceration, thinking they'll never get out of that rut, what would you tell them? What would you say that maybe you wish someone had told you?
That there's light at the end of the tunnel, that you can do the work, and there are resources and tools and people that will help you do the work so that you can get to the place you wanna be.
Absolutely. They are needed in this world. There is hope. Hold on, pain eases, uh, as Kristen Christie says,
Yes.
and or help one person every day. Hope. I learned some new rephrasing for the word hope from talking with her, and I know Leslie Wyrich also speaks the same way about hope. Transformation Kitchen is described as a beacon of hope in darkness, right? What does being a beacon of hope mean to you?
It means being someone that people can count on that's going to show up. We purposely had our logo be a light bulb because to me that's the light bulb moment is when you learn that not only can you help yourself and your family, but you can help others.
Absolutely. And you're impacting and saving lives. It's amazing what you're doing. Last question. You were abused, been through addiction, homelessness, incarcerated, even suicidal. You thought you were worthless. Now look at what you're doing, running international programs, advocating for legislation, really helping and making an impact on people. You're paying forward. What is possible when someone offers you that gift and you can pay it forward?
I think the sky's the limit. Anything in your mind is possible if you take the path, do the work, are willing to listen, are willing to give yourself grace when you make mistakes or you have failures, because they'll just help you get to the place you want to get. This hasn't, you know, from 2022 to now, it didn't happen as fast as I wanted it to. But
Sure.
there are other people that look at this journey and go, "Look at what you've done in this time frame." And I have to remember to have that kind of joy and gratitude that I'm grateful that we are where we are because it all happened as it was meant to happen. And so I think it's important to realize that you can do anything you want to do if you put your mind to it and you're willing to do the work and you use the tools and resources available around you and the people that are willing to help you to get to that place.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Chasen, thank you.
Thank you.
Your story and what you built from it is going to help so many people, not just today and but well into the future, which really matters and is making a huge impact. And looking forward to seeing what happens in August because there are people out there that feel like they're trapped in cycles that they can't escape that really need help, and going to make a difference in their lives just like you do today. Where can people learn more about you, your company, and Transformation Kitchen?
I think the easiest thing is to go to our website. It's hr dash the number four, the letter u.org.
Awesome. And I'll make sure that that's included in the show notes. And I would ask folks go check that out, learn more, get involved, donate, really help make a difference. Pay it forward if you have the opportunity to do so wherever you live. It doesn't mean you have to be in New York, right? There are opportunities to pay it forward everywhere. So that little act of kindness could change or save a life.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming today, Jason.
Thank you.
It's mind blowing, and I'm grateful for having the opportunity to know you now and learn more about your story. What I'd ask others listening to take away from today is learn from Jason's experience. He's been abused, addicted, homeless, suicidal, incarcerated. He thought he was worthless, and someone offered him a gift, not money, not rescue, but training, a skill, a pathway. You can do the same. And that's what Transformation Kitchen is doing now. That's his mission. And receiving a gift and paying it forward can impact thousands. So if you've been through hell, if you've been where Chasen was, the message is simple. Transformation is possible. You are not worthless, and you are needed in this world. Someone somewhere is ready to offer you a gift. Make sure you accept it and then pay it forward. But if you are struggling, you're dealing with addiction, alcoholism, drugs, homelessness, thoughts of suicide, get involved. Call 988, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Talk to someone. Call 911 if it's an emergency. You do matter. Transformation is possible, and you can become a beacon of hope in someone else's darkness. And if this episode does help you, please remember to like and share. There's others out there that need to hear it. I'm Mike Orlowski. This is Mojo, Motivation and Mental Health. Choose happiness, choose to pay it forward, choose to be extraordinary, and get your mojo back. Thank you.